So we made it. This is part 100 of the FZR restoration. And we're in the middle of a really cold, rainy, miserable winter. But this restoration has kept us really, really busy all winter. 100 days so far. And no matter how I ever look back in the future at this winter, doing this restoration has been so far, we are way more than halfway done. And we're way more than half done with the winter, so that's always good. My original plan was this was going to take between 5 to 6 months to complete, which is usually what any of these restorations take, but this one really moved right along. We're almost done with the paintwork, in fact. And the weather shows no sign of warming up, so we should be able to finish this way ahead of schedule. Now, I revised my original schedule for this. I originally didn't know if I was going to have time to do the wheels. Well, it looks like right now we're going to have plenty of time to do the wheels. In every one of these restorations, there was some curveballs along the way, some delays, some things we ran into problems. But in the end, springtime always comes, the flowers are blooming, the fish have their first set of young, and the birds are chirping, and we're getting ready to go out on a freshly restored bike. And that's what looks like exactly what's going to happen with the FZR. Barring running into some there's always something unexpected. Why do I always think it's going to be smooth sailing? It's never smooth sailing. But no matter what, it definitely does keep you from being turned into the nursing home and put in diapers. Stay busy. That's the name of the game. Now, believe it or not, I'm already thinking of ways I can use this piece, somehow adapt this fairing to the RD when I do the Cafe RD, possibly next winter or the winter after it. But then, who knows how long I'm going to live. And I know one thing for sure, if you stay busy, you're way ahead of the person who just sits around all day and eats bonbons. I know that for a fact. I watched several of my friends retire, and they did not do well unless they stayed busy. Well, one of the objectives of me doing these restorations is I don't really need any more motorcycles to ride. And of course, not only is the idea to stay busy, but to do something you're passionate about. Passionate, it's a hard thing to describe, but I look forward to doing these motorcycles every winter. And boy, there's only one thing better than hot coffee. In this kind of a day, that's 2 cups of coffee. Oh man, all right, we're ready to go to work. That'll get me going. Now, I thought I'd talk for a few minutes before I get started today about if you're starting a restoration, some of the things you can do to make it easier, make it, well, in my case, doable, that you can do it at all. There's a lot of do's and don'ts that I found out have worked for me over the years, and I've been doing this for a lot of years. Now, I'm just taking some snippets from old videos. This is Mark's FZ600 that we did, or maybe it's one of his other bikes. I don't know. We had 2 or 3 of them here at one time, but you can see we had a lot of body parts. So the first thing, if you're going to do a restoration, this is the mistake. I'm trying to outline mistakes that I've made, not only myself, and that I've seen. It looks like we had 2 or 3 projects going here at once, looking at these old videos. But here's the bottom line. And by the way, they're all accessible. You can just dial up on my channel, FZ600. You go right to these. They have a lot of hits. They're very popular. But here's my point. And these are all valid points if you're going to do a restoration. You got to start with something that you want to restore. Now, in my case, what I like to do is restore a bike I've ridden for a year or 2 and got custom tailored handlebars and all the controls, everything just the way I like it. Make sure the engine's solid, and then you go through the routine, lay out the body work, wait for a good time to do it. In this case, Mark waited for a winter, and the results were very predictable. Come springtime, he had a wonderful restoration. What I always say, come springtime always comes, it has a way of coming, whether you like it or not. But here's one of the really, I think, really nice things about the channel that I've developed over the years. If you go to the Windy Space U channel, you can then click back and dial up FZ600, And I think there's about 30 or 40 videos we did of restoring this bike. There's actually videos of us test riding the bike. The whole restoration and the test rides, and basically Mark still has the bike and he's still working on it. Of course, it's a never-ending thing to work on these bikes. Now also what's documented on our channel, and this I'm just using this as an example, we had a problem with Mark had to do a repair on this. We had the bike finished and he was doing some work on it and had to redo I think the blue on the tank had to be redone. I'm not sure, I don't remember. But anyway, there's good information for repairing things, even after you've ridden the bike and after you've buffed it out, and all that information is on the channel. Yeah, there's the scar we had to take care of. Well, not to make this an all-day video, but all that information is out there. So here's my second tip. First one is make sure you're restoring a bike that you enjoy riding and is comfortable. So, and the reason, it's pretty simple. If you have a bike that's not comfortable, you're not going to enjoy riding it over the long haul, and then a month later you're going to want to sell it. And we have friends that buy and sell bikes like they change their underwear, but I'm on the other end of that. I like to buy a bike, ride it for a year or two, make sure I really like it and enjoy it, it suits my needs, and then restore it. Now, by having this library of videos, one of the things that allows me to do it, and I'm going to use an example. We're going to be doing the wheels on the FZR soon. So in my spare time, and I'm not inclined to watch Candle After TV at all, I can go back and I have pretty much all of these videos from the restorations. I think we're coming up on almost 1,400 as of today. And then I look back and I say, gee, I forgot that. Don't forget to do that. And oh, I remember how I got that, pulled that metal out of there and how I smoothed that surface out or whatever. But the point is, they're all out there for you too. And they're free. And assuming you don't like Candle After as much as I do, and you don't like flat black, you might enjoy them all. They're all still out there. And there's not much of that information that isn't useful, especially if you're new to restoration. Now, I've been doing it for a lot of years, so I basically have made all the mistakes. It's a wonderful thing that I can share them with people that also want to watch, and this is an example of one from Mark's series, painting the wheels, one of the sets of wheels for the Ninja. But if you've never even done a simple thing like paint wheels, maybe some of these videos will, nice hat, look at that. Maybe they will inspire you. By the way, that is a nice hat. It's very warm in the winter. We were doing this I can see we were doing in the winter. And for me, looking back at these videos, every one of these restorations, there was something about it that was memorable, enjoyable. It's actually the story of the life we share with you. Now, one thing I have heard, I don't know if I totally agree with it, but younger people, maybe because of the internet, seem to have here's Mark on a test ride of his bike. They seem to have problems with having a long, drawn-out project that there's no instant gratification. Well, that's one of the problems with a restoration, is the gratification takes months to go by. But once you're done, I mean, look what you have. And you have this basically for as long as you live, or until you sell a bike. Now, I always remember, and Dave Kindig on the end of his show, Bitchin' Rides, he always says, building custom cars isn't easy, it's bitchin'. Well, restoring old motorcycles is a bitch too, believe me. But boy, in the end, you have something special. And as my good friend Andy Lee reminds me from time to time, and he's right. It's something you just can't buy. You've got to kind of put the effort in yourself. You just can't go to the store, slip them a credit card and have it. You got to do the work yourself. Or it really doesn't have the same amount of meaning if you just pay somebody to do it. Now, even some of these other restorations that we've done for Luciano, Mark, and Glenn, and I won't even try to name everybody. But it's not a problem. It's not a contest to see if you can do the most restorations in the world. What's great if you can do it in the course of doing a restoration, and I'm just going to use this as an example. I helped Luciano with the paint on this, and he's helped me with mechanical things. And over the years, we've kind of done a swap of services. This is This is his baby right here. He had two of these at one time. I think Ray still has one. And Malcolm has the other one. Well, there's a bike I love too. What great memories are on these old videos. Great memories. And you know how a picture is worth 1,000 words, and this is, I have saved this. It is Glenn, of course, when he had bought his Ducati. We needed to pull the engine out to have the case welded. Luciano came over, volunteered some time. We got the engine out. And this, having this old footage, we had what we call the A-team over many years, helping each other do these projects. And I was basically responsible for most of the painting. And Luciano did a lot of the mechanical work, and a lot of jobs we teamed up on as the A-team. And those videos are still out there. And this is a classic A-team story. Glenn had brought the Ducati over. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. We had a cup of coffee. And he had a lot of anxiety about getting the engine out. And I said, oh, Luciano will be here in a half an hour or so. We'll have it out by lunchtime. Well, this is where the engine was at lunchtime. The engine was in Miles's wagon. I bet Glenn, that brings back a lot of good memories. We had a lot of fun with the A-team over the years. And of course, one of the projects that I look back at, and we put so much work into this Benelli. This is one of Vlad's sets of body work for the Benelli. My towels were turning green from sanding this green paint. Candy apple green paint. Now this is a classic case of what not to do. You notice it's the middle of summer, everything's green, everybody's got their summer clothes on, and I'm restoring motorcycles. Well, this was one of the things I learned a very valuable lesson from. Don't restore motorcycles in the summer. This was not fun at all because I was losing rides every day, and I was just basically doing Vlad a favor here, but I will never get involved in doing a restoration in the summer. We have 6 or 7 months of riding every day and 5 months of what we have right now, drinking coffee and grinding away at a restoration. But it's all good memories. So those are just a few tips. I've tried to put everything that I have been lucky enough to figure out over my lifetime on a video for people to share. It's all free. Pass it on to your friends or just enjoy watching it. And I think it's all good, solid information. See, now here's a good case. Back then we were using 2000 grit, and it was a lot more work buffing things out. We've upgraded that to what we have on this restoration, to a 2500 grit and a better grade of 5-star clear. I just think that's the kind of information that's worth sharing. Anyway, we're going to get back to work. Enough with the nostalgia, the coffee, the memories. We have to move on this FZR restoration. So back to our FZR project, and it's always fun looking back. I always enjoy looking back. And like I said, I don't really have any interest in these canned laughter fake TV shows. So for me, I do watch a lot of YouTube though, and I do learn a lot from it. I'm looking at this. It's ready for the 2500 sand out. It's got a lot of little nubs, and I remember the day that we actually did paint this, the last coat of clear, the wind was howling, and there's no way to avoid this unless your father owns a body shop and lets you do this on a weekend, or maybe you own a body shop. The decals came out beyond my wildest dream, and boy, every time I look at him, I say thank you, John Pothier. He really stepped up to the plate there, as he always does. But anyway, I'm going to take this chance here. We've had a nice nostalgic coffee break, and now I can get a couple hours of grinding in. May not get this done today, and Karen thinks the baby may or may not be coming over. And the weather is unpredictable. It was really cold this morning, but it's supposed to warm up. So one thing I enjoy is never having 2 days the same. Today is not going to be like any other day. It never is. So one of the things I always remember is over the years we've always made, and just seeing that footage today with Mark's project reminded me, and the Benelli project, every year we seem to learn a little more, which is the normal for everything in life. Whether you play tennis or golf or whatever, it seems like that's a human quality. The 2500 grit paper, and this is why I try not to rush this, because this does take longer. We used to use 2000 grit, but this adds maybe an hour to the sanding, but then you save 3 hours on the buffing. So I think overall And again, I try to segment the part out into pieces, maybe about as big as your hand. In this case, I want to get all of these edges of the paint. I don't want to feel any of them. This is the one part of the job that I say, this detailing, if you tough it out, and even if it goes more than one day, to me it doesn't matter, because you're going to have this part. In my case, I never sell motorcycles. So to me, this, once I put 400 or 500 hours into a restoration, 6 months of my life, there's no way I'm going to sell it unless it goes in off a cliff into the Grand Canyon or something. But again, part of that restoration thing, the secret is to only restore a bike you've already ridden and you love. And in the case of, I know, like an example is Ray loves his X650 SVs. Well, it pays to restore one then, or do a cafe racer or whatever. But if you buy a bike, and without mentioning any names, I know several people have bought a very expensive sport bike. Oh, now they're the king of the hill. They have the fastest bike on a mountain, and 2 weeks later they want to sell it because it's so uncomfortable they can't enjoy riding it. Or the first time they go on a 200-mile ride, they realize clip-ons belong on the track, not on the street or something. Doesn't matter what, but everybody's different. If you're a young person, you probably have a lot more tolerance for pain than I do at this point in my life. I don't want any pain at all. I've turned into a total wuss, a total wuss. I want to get on a bike and just enjoy the ride. And be with my friends, hang out, sweet summer days. Hey, the memories of the A-Team that were on those old videos, I was just trying to take little clips out of them. I was watching that for about an hour this morning. The memories of some of the days we had in Bob Navola's garage or over at Glenn's house, working on his shop and stuff, priceless. And I think if I had never shot the video, those memories would still be there, but they'd be not quite as sharp. When I look at those old pictures of Glenn and Luciano pulling that motor out of the Ducati, and bringing it up to Olson, and that was quite an adventure, I have to admit. It was more of an adventure maybe than we really needed at that point in time. But anyway, it's nice if you can absorb your winter into doing a restoration. I always think that's a good use of time. And then all summer, be out there changing tires and doing track days or whatever you enjoy. So that's just one I've got to grind out. I've got a couple little spots still have to be done. But that basically right there is the work of doing one in real time. And I always like to show one in real time. Now I showed the sand out in real time at this part, but you can see there's a moon. Let me see if I can get, there's the moon craters. And we have our little moon crater nail file that we wrap around 2500 grit sandpaper. One by one I will sand these out. And you'd think, see, now here's the mistake to make. You think, oh, nobody will see that. If you skip this step, yeah, maybe nobody will see it, but all that means is you hang around with a lot of blind people. The people I hang around with, they're going to see that right away. So I want to really, I'll spend the rest of this time, even if the only thing I get done today is a part of the sand out, I'd rather have a part of it done right than have the whole thing done and be ready to buff it tomorrow, and it's not perfect. So the thing is, our soft nail file wrapped around a piece of 2500. I try to put this on all the videos because remember, here's the thing. We're coming up on 5,000 subscribers. In fact, maybe by the time you see this, we'll have 5,000. I don't know. It's coming pretty quick anyway. So the reason I say that is a lot of people have not seen the tips that are on the videos like from a month ago. So, and I know once somebody gets addicted to want to know how to make a nice finish on something, because it happened to me, I was a fanatic. I wanted to know every trick in the book. I want to know everything there is to know about paint. And it took me over 50 years to figure out what I know now. So if I could pass that on in a matter of a couple hours, wow, that's an amazing accomplishment. Anyway, we will work on these with our moon crater removal tool for as long as it takes to get them out. And it just takes time to get that perfectly flat. Using the two tools, sanded by hand, and wrapping that up. And the one thing I try to show on every video, because it's a good thing, is put the nail file that way, that way, that way, that way, that way. Use the corner, because you're really only cutting on that last little edge, maybe the last inch, no matter how, if you hold it flat. And this way you don't wind up using 100 sheets of sandpaper. A job like this, 3 or 4 sheets of sandpaper is fine. Well, the next thing is I pick this area here around where the big decal is, and I'll be super careful here, because you have a sharp edge where the bolts go, an edge here, and an edge on the back. I don't want to go through on the corners or edges. I want to get that as flat as possible. Now that's block sanded as flat out. It'll buff out beautifully. We got this part done and we're ready to move on, and just by doing one spot at a time, it actually does go quicker than you think it does. But very important for me to detail out every piece and get every one of those moon craters out. Every time I put another one of these pieces, that one's done, that one's pretty much done. I've done around the edge. Now the next thing I'll do is I'll get in the scoop area. I mean, most of that has to really be carefully done by hand. Another piece here. But what happens is these pieces just one right after another, they get put to where they're dead flat. They'll be ready to buff in the next section. It's always difficult to get down in these little nooks and crannies and around these edges without going through, especially these edges here. So, one by one, the parts are coming together. Oh, really coming down the home stretch on this part now. The only thing left to do, all the white stuff, and be really careful around the decals and make sure every edge, everywhere that the paint changes color, we've got totally flat. So we've reached another watershed in this project. This is the last of the parts that need to be buffed. Actually, all the hard work is done, the sanding. There's not a moon crater in here that I can see, which probably means there's 10 I haven't caught yet, but I will try. And after a long day of sanding, oh wow, and some looking back at the nostalgia, it's been a great day. Well, this is really a watershed. I'm really so happy that this is done. This will be a piece of cake to buff out. It really came out nice. And if you remember how bad these panels were, look at this, hello, how bad these panels were in the very beginning. Wow. And to see them now sitting up here, ready to be buffed, to me it's like a little baby miracle of sorts. Yeah, that looks cute. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and looking back some of our nostalgic footage. Remember this, it's going to be 1,400 videos. A lot of them have some nostalgic stuff on them. Even the ones where we head out for some meetups or rides, they're all fun. Anyway, and thanks for watching.